Hey everybody, it's me again. I wanted to make a video to discuss what my plans for Necropolis League will be. So far, we're just getting some quality of life teasers. We're still like 2 weeks out of the league. Approximately a little more than 2 weeks, like 2 weeks and a couple days, because I'm anticipating it's going to be on the 29th. And right now it's the 13th, so we still got about roughly 2 weeks left until league launch, and just wanted to talk about actually what my plans are, and it's going to be quite different from usual league launches this time around for me, because I am actually going to be starting Ruthless solo self-found. And yes, call me crazy, but I just wanted to try a new experience, a new form of the game that I haven't played before. I've played softcore for quite some time now, for many leagues, and I mean I've been playing this game since 2014, so I played quite a bit of hardcore trade, quite a bit of softcore trade, but Ruthless is still something I haven't really played too much. I actually did play Ruthless in Affliction, and I made it to level 81, but I still felt like I barely scratched the surface because I only got to like beginning yellow maps like tier 6, tier 7, and I really didn't make it too much. The problem is I started softcore, so I played for like 4 or 5 weeks of softcore, and by the time I got to Ruthless, I was already getting kind of burnt out of the league. And this time around, my plan is to fully go the entire league solo self-found Ruthless. And solo self-found is also something additionally that I haven't really played too much of. So I think it's going to be a great change of pace for me, and I'm pretty excited to try that. So what's the purpose of this video besides just kind of sharing my plans? I want to talk about sort of what the build I'm tentatively planning is, and then also discuss actually planning Atlas trees for Ruthless. There's not a lot of information on YouTube about Ruthless. If you actually kind of go in here, I actually, if you type in Ruthless PoE guide, you pretty much don't really get much. I mean, you get a 1-year-old crypt video, a 1-year-old video here. This is actually what I will be trying out, and I'm going to get into this. This guy, I'm going to give a shout out to a couple of YouTubers here. First one to Allocates Beef. If you're interested in playing Ruthless, this guy has a lot of great videos, even though he doesn't really have a lot of subscribers, but he actually has really good content, especially this understanding the Ruthless Atlas passive tree video. I think this is a really good video. And actually, as you can see, I'm kind of going to be actually taking inspiration off of this guy's videos to my league starter. And then another shout out to this guy right here, Shmi TV. This guy also has some really nice Ruthless stuff. He has a lot of Ruthless videos here, so I've just been kind of trying to research a lot about Ruthless. I have some experience with Ruthless, but again, I only got to level 81, and so yeah, you can't go into Ruthless being unprepared and not knowing what you're doing, because if you do go in that way, you're gonna get crushed, and it's especially in solo self-found. So what are my plans? I'm actually planning to league start a Reap Exsanguinate Scion. I have looked at several characters. I was also considering starting a Poisonous Concoction Pathfinder, but I actually tried out both the builds a little bit, and I think I'm going to be going with the Reap Exsanguinate Scion. One really good thing about this build is like all Ruthless builds, you pretty much have to make sure there's no required items, and that's the case for this build. As you can see, pretty much no items. I mean, this is just kind of stuff that this guy just found. So, I mean, a Dawnbreaker and a Cerberus Limb is actually pretty farmable in Ruthless if you just put enough time into it, because eventually you'll kill Exarch, and eventually you'll get deep enough into Delve and find the Delve bosses to get this item. So, it just with enough time. Some uniques obviously are target farmable because they just boss drops are still there. So as long as you can get to the boss and kill the boss enough times, you will be able to get the boss uniques even in Ruthless. Granted, it's going to take a lot more time. So this is kind of the tree. The main difference, as you can see, is I don't take some obvious jewel sockets like these ones here, and then I'm not taking any cluster jewels because, again, it's Ruthless. Rolling good jewels, and especially good cluster jewels, is pretty difficult. And as you can see, I only spec'd it up to level 90 because, again, there's really not much reason to go further than 90. 90 is pretty much like the soft cap in Ruthless. Going above 90 is pretty tough. I mean, you can maybe get to early 90s. Getting to mid 90s is pretty much like the max. I think I've only ever seen like a level 95 in League Ruthless. Getting past that, it's just like pretty impossible from what I've seen, and it would take longer than the duration of the league to get anywhere near level 100. So yeah, so basically it's a Reap Exsanguinate kind of Scion. We're using Reap. Eventually gonna get the supports at some point. Determination, Pride, again, you're definitely not going to have those anytime soon. What's cool about this build is it's really tanky, uses RF as well for the 40% more spell damage, or I guess 39%. Exsanguinate for the clear, and then a lot of recoup, or a lot of regen on this build, so a lot of really nice stuff. A lot of resists for Ruthless, 83, 81, 81, really nice for Ruthless, and as you can see, the dot DPS with pretty much as good as you're going to get gear is like 3 million, so that's really solid stats for Ruthless. And again, like this effective hit pool with these max hits is pretty good for Ruthless. Is it enough to tank like uber pinnacle bosses? I don't know about that, but it can definitely probably handle all the way up to tier 16, and with enough time invested. So this is my plan to league start. It's quite nice because you start right here, and the campaign isn't so terrible because you right away, the tree really has to carry you in Ruthless. That's what's really important because you get pretty much no support gems, so you're on a one link. What's nice about Exsanguinate and Reap, they're both pretty nice one link gems even without any support skills. So right away you get fizz damage, you get life right in here, and you go straight up here, get all this fizz, dot multi, get this relentless here as well. Well, I guess technically you'd eventually get this fizz damage here, and you go down here, bulks up your resistances if you need them. So it's really the Scion, this left side of the Scion is a really nice starter spot. And then basically you'd actually I'm actually going to be pathing through here and picking up this Vanquisher wheel, and then probably going through here and then picking up all this good stuff here, and then continuing down this way. I'm not going to probably go down this way right away. Eventually I'll respec and I'll get rid of these travel nodes. So that's kind of the plan. So eventually I'll go down here probably a little later. And for now I'm going to kind of aim up here to get all this stuff here. So I tested the build up to, I think I got to like Act 5, and so far it's been pretty smooth. I was just testing it out in Solo Self-Found Ruthless Affliction. It's working pretty well, so I think it's going to work out nicely for League launch, considering no patch note, crazy patch note changes. I don't think they're going to do anything to Reap Exsanguinate. We'll see. And also, this also largely depends on what items I find. If I find some kind of game-changing item, just happen to like early maps, or if I get something like I don't know. I don't even know what I can get. Like a Cloak of Defiance, or even something as small as like a pair of Deer Stalkers for trap. Stuff like that can really just like change the course of the league, and that's what's so cool about Ruthless is just finding some kind of certain items makes a huge difference. And then for the tree, it's really nice for Scion because you get Raider. Phasing is really nice for Ruthless. One thing with Onslaught and Ruthless, you actually don't get the movement speed bonus. As you can see, it doesn't say 20% movement speed. You actually don't get the movement speed bonus on in Ruthless for Onslaught, and Frenzy Charge Generation is good, and then also as well the extra skill points, and then we get Slayer for the Leech non-cap, and then cannot take Reflected Fizz is actually quite nice if I want to run 7th Gate, which works a bit differently in Ruthless, and then so I'll get into the Atlas tree for Ruthless, but I think that's just about everything I need to cover here. This is pretty much the build I'm going to be tentatively starting out with, considering nothing changes. And that's sort of the plan. Exsanguinate Scion, Soul Self-Found, Ruthless. So let's do it. And for the Atlas skill tree, if you're interested in playing Ruthless, I definitely recommend giving it a shot, but you have to make sure you especially get the Atlas tree right, because if you mess up the Atlas tree early on, you're in for a world of hurt. So you want to make sure that you get this right. So basically, what you want to do in Ruthless, it looks quite different from the standard softcore. This right here, what you're seeing, is a pretty good starting tree for a kind of getting into white maps. Basically, in the beginning, you really need your Atlas tree to help you with map sustain, because before getting the first 2 Void Stones for Exarch and Eater, map sustain is pretty hard and Ruthless. Even late game, sustaining like tier 16s, tier 15s is pretty tough. So basically, you want to almost always grab Mad Devotion and Perpetual Search. Pretty much always want to get these. These should be basically auto-includes in Ruthless. I'm going to just go over briefly kind of the starting of the tree, and then I'm going to talk about the Masters and the League content, because those are 2 big things in Ruthless. Basically, when you start the tree, you want to spec into, you can go either left or right. Generally, you want to start Perpetual Search, and then get all these map drop chance nodes are actually really, really nice. And they really help with map sustain, and then also getting the Kirak mission chance, because early game getting Kirak missions really also helps carry map progression. Planar Tactician and Solidarity aren't like absolutely required, but you can get them if you want. But just getting the maps and then going for Shaping the Skies and Shaping the Mountains early on is also quite nice for map sustain, for that 8% chance for maps to be 1 tier higher, so that becomes 16% with both. Basically, then you want to run up here and pick up Commissioned Officer. This gives you a 2% chance to grant an additional Kirak mission on completion, so that's also really nice. You kind of want to get that. And then typically, from what I have seen from my research, is you want to pretty much then rush up and get the whole quant wheel. Again, in softcore, in normal league, it's the quant wheel, but in Ruthless, it's the pack size wheel. This gives you 12% increased pack size, which makes quite a big difference in Ruthless. Then once you have this kind of base, I would say actually take kind of these off. Once you have this kind of general kind of skeleton, at this point, the next thing you want to start doing pretty quickly is, from what I've heard, and I would agree to this, is start blocking out League content. If you're not familiar with Ruthless and you have never played it and don't know how League content spawns work in maps in Ruthless, it works quite differently from the base game. In the base game, any map you do, you get a flat 8% chance for each piece of League content to spawn. So that's, you get 8% chance for Breaches, you get 8% chance for Abyss, 8% chance Expedition, so on and so forth. Of every single piece of content, you get an 8% chance. That's why in sub maps you might see like a whole heck of a lot of stuff, and in other maps you might only see like 2 or 3 things. It just depends kind of on your RNG. With Ruthless, it works a little differently. In Ruthless, the League content is a lot more scarce. Basically what happens in Ruthless is you get, instead of rolling for each piece of League content, you get 1 roll for 1 piece of league content out of all the league contents. So it's significantly reduced. So from what I understand, the way it works is, I believe in white maps, you have a 35% chance to get one piece of league content, and then you have like a 5% chance to get two pieces of league content, and then you have a 60% chance to get no league content. So the reality is, with Ruthless, most of the maps are going to be pretty bare. That's actually one of the things I'm a little worried about with Ruthless, is the fact that there's not going to be a lot of stuff in the maps. That's a little thing that's a little concerning to me regarding the longevity of the game in Ruthless, but I still want to give it a go, and hopefully it won't be too boring. But so basically, since you only have a 35% chance to get one piece of league content, you really want to make sure that if it does hit that one piece of league content, or two, you want to make sure it's something that you're spec'd into. So basically, if you're not spec'd into any of these canceling nodes, you're given a 35% chance to get the league content. If you do, you're given a 1 out of 11 chance then to get any piece of content. So there's 10 league contents, and then there's the master missions. So that's 11 things. So it's a 1 in 11 chance to get any single one. So say, for instance, I really like doing Blight. Well, if I don't have anything canceled out, and I have to first hit pretty much the 35% chance, I then only have a 1 in 11 chance to get Blight. So it's pretty bad in terms of the odds to get specific league content. That is why pretty much everybody recommends, and I'm in full agreement with this, that you have to block out most league content. And the reality is, in Ruthless, most league content is actually pretty awful. Breaches are terrible. Breaches just don't give any splinters. They rarely give any items, and it's not a lot of content. You're given, the breach comes out, and it's only like one breach, I think you get. You don't even get multiple breach. I think you only get one breach. You only get one breach, and it's like you get maybe like one splinter, So breaches are just terrible in Ruthless. Abysses are also pretty bad. The only temporary reason you want to run Abyss is if you're looking for Abyssal Jewels, if you're like a minion build, or just these Abyssal Jewels, or all the Abyss type jewels. Otherwise, Abyss is pretty bad. Expedition is just terrible in Ruthless. Tujin pretty much gives nothing. Rog just sells or has blue items. It's just terrible. Expedition is just garbage in Ruthless. Sacred Grove is also not really great. I heard it can be okay in some instances, but overall, Sacred Grove is also pretty bad. And Legion's just terrible too. So all these kind of content where it's sort of like a one use in the map thing, and it's timed, it's just not really good. So I would recommend personally canceling out all these. Now, there's a few that are good, and this is the general consensus from what I've researched and what I have heard from both of the accounts that I've shouted out, and just other profiles and other other videos that I've watched. Ritual, Blight, and Heist. Those are the three that are actually pretty decent, and there's a reason why. Ritual for Ritual, number one, yes, the drops are reduced, kind of like Tujin Expedition. There's the reward screens are pretty scarce. But what's nice about Rituals is you occasionally will get the unique item reward screen, which is pretty rare because you don't get a lot of uniques in Ruthless. So the unique screen is really good. But also the big thing about Ritual is that you can eventually gather enough splinters and force Ritual content on your maps, kind of like using the Ritual Vessel. So it's kind of almost functions like a scarab, which is really powerful in Ruthless, because in Ruthless you don't get really a lot of scarabs, let alone gilded scarabs if you're in red maps, because the way Ruthless works is the increased scarab quality, it doesn't give you like more additional rewards. It just correlates to the tier of the map. So the rusted scarabs are for white maps. The what is it? The polished scarabs are for yellow maps, and the gilded scarabs are for red maps. But none of them give any extra rewards. So getting like gilded scarabs when you're red maps, you know, good luck with that in Ruthless. So that's why Ritual is really good. Is Ritual is one of those ones you can actually force onto a map. Blight is quite nice as well for two reasons. Number one, Blight actually, let me actually go here. This is the Blight tree that I made. What's good about Blight is you actually don't need a strong character because you can rely on the towers to kill everything. And then the other good thing about Blight is that you get blighted maps. So one kind of really common theme is that you want content that can give you more content in the future. So with rituals, you get the splinters to eventually make a ritual vessel to get more content. With Blight, you get blighted maps to do more blights. And then finally, the last one with Heist. Heist is also a really good one because you get contracts and blueprints. And that is a lot of extra content, extra experience that, and basically it's kind of like an extra map. So getting that extra, just the quantity of content is really good in Ruthless. And that's something that pretty much none of these other ones can really provide. That's why Blight, Heist, and Ritual are so good in Ruthless. Ultimatum, I haven't tried it, but I wouldn't say it's that great. Delirium can potentially be done late game, but early game you definitely won't want to do Delirium. My recommendation is that you always have Heist, and then you either block or either have unblocked Blight or Ritual. I haven't decided yet which one I'm going to unblock. That's why I actually made multiple trees here. This is the Blight tree, and this is the Ritual tree. So this is the Blight tree. Again, it's pretty self-explanatory. As you can see, I've just left Heist and Blight. Everything else is blocked out because if I hit that 35% chance, I want a Heist or a Blight. I don't want some kind of garbage like Expedition or like a Breach, you know. So that's why that's blocked out. And basically, we get Epidemiology, Mycelial Swarm for more rewards. Cassius Pride is really good because, let's face it, your character's probably not going to be strong, so you want to use the towers. So that's pretty nice there. Sturdy Construction. Still Fungus is okay. And then, as you can see, I also get the Heist stuff as well here. So in both instances of these trees that I made, I'm getting Heist in both of them. But I just switched around between Blight and Ritual. Now, another important thing to note is that you will see these nodes in the Ruthless tree that look like this. Your maps have 50% increased chance to contain a smuggler's cache, 125% increased chance to contain a smuggler's cache, 125% increased chance for Blight. Here's another one, 125% chance for Sacred Grove. These actually are totally useless because all these nodes that have this 100 whatever percent increased chance to contain content, it doesn't affect the initial percentage to get leaked content. So that 35% to initially get one piece of leaked content, this 125% doesn't do anything to it. So it stays the same. The only way you can modify that initial chance to get content is by the tier of the map. From what I understand, every single tier between white, yellow, and red, your chance to get leaked content increases a little bit. So it goes from like 35 to like 40%, from 40 to 45% to get one piece. And that's just hypothetical numbers. I don't know the exact numbers, but that is what I have heard. But what these nodes do is they increase the chance to select the content after you win the initial roll to pick a piece of content. So initially it's 1 in 11 chance. If I didn't have anything allocated, it would be a 1 in 11 chance to get Sacred Grove. If I had this allocated, it would turn into like, say for instance, like for the what is it called? Oh my goodness, Sacred Grove. It would go from like a 1 in 11 to maybe like a 1 in 8 chance. So that's what this does. But they're pretty much totally useless because if you're blocking out all the content, you're already basically guaranteed to get what you want. because if you only have two things, straight and narrow and blight, I mean including master missions as well, you're either guaranteed a heist, a blight, or a master mission. So there's pretty much no point in getting these nodes that increase the chance to contain a certain encounter. They just don't. They're not useful in Ruthless, and you don't need to get them. There's pretty much no point in them. If you're picking all these up, you're sort of bricking your tree. For the master missions, basically, as I kind of mentioned in the beginning, the two good ones are Nico and Alva, and it's basically for the same reason that I talked about in terms of the specific league content. Alva gives you a lot of extra content because you get the temple. Delve, Nico, he lets you go in the delve. That's a lot more content that you can use. Basically, the strategy is that you want to pick all the content that can give more content later on. For instance, Einar, absolutely useless in Ruthless. It does basically nothing. The beast crafting is terrible. The altar rewards are bad. They downscaled them. Einar is just awful in Ruthless, so you pretty much never want Einar. The betrayal is okay-ish, but again, you get a lot more content from something like Nico or Alva. So that's why I personally would not recommend like picking up Focused Investigation or Animal Companion, especially not Animal Companion. If you want, you could potentially spec into Betrayal if you're trying to farm a specific unique early on. Popular one, Devouring Diadem. That's basically in Ruthless. That's a pretty end game helm, especially in Soul Self-Found. You're probably not going to find much better than that. So like just to target farm a certain unique can be good, but generally you want to go for Nico and Alva. Alva is also good because you get the temple. In the temple, you get stuff like map rooms. You get the like corrupting tempest rooms. So you get a lot of stuff that could potentially give you more content. So this is my blight tree that I've made. Again, going with incursion, blight, and heist. And this is basically the ritual tree I've made. Getting all the good kind of ritual nodes over here. You pretty much want to get all this ritual stuff. And also one thing that was mentioned in, I believe it was Allocates Beef that I shouted out, and I'm kind of in agreement with this. Wait to do your alvas until you get time dilation, because that's going to give you a much better chance to actually do the content and clear the, the architects to get the upgraded rooms. So that is pretty much a brief and quick rundown of Ruthless Atlas trees. This is kind of what I've learned from doing all the research, watching all the videos, and it would be a pretty good approach. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly how it looks here. And I mean, if you really like doing some kind of other piece of content, or if you're really trying to target farm a certain unique, then of course you can do that piece of league content. But my initial thoughts are heist, blight, and ritual are probably going to be the main bets, along with Alva and Nico. Anyways, I think that's going to be all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you are planning, if you're one of the very few people that are planning to start in Ruthless, let me know what your plans are. If you have any ideas, if you have any build in mind, I'd love to hear it. This isn't, of course, finalized, but for now, my plan is to do the Exsanguinate Scion, and that'll be the plan for League Start. This is going to be quite a different League Start, so I'm very excited. 2 more weeks, so very excited to hear next week about the live stream and what changes will be made. And pretty unfortunate to see that Affliction will not be in the base game, but probably a good idea. And rip that which was taken. Was fun while it lasted, I guess. But that jewel, I guess, is out of the running now. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in another video coming soon.